I'm going to make a start then. Hi everybody. John Terry had a problem with the microphone earlier, but I don't seem to. I'm probably about a foot smaller than he is. I'm going to wander around a little bit, so if people can't hear me when I move away from the microphone, give me a shout. I'll wander around a bit. So, thank you all for coming to the session. Hopefully it'll be worthwhile. My name is David Leach. I've been in and around software development and e-commerce for about 15 years. I've been an Agile and Lean coach and more recently product manager. I've been on a little bit of an evolution and an Agile journey myself. Hopefully I'll share a few things today on, I've been told about measuring Agile success. This really is probably more around not just an Agile business, but any business, and how it's important to have, we talked earlier on about telling a story, having that vision for a company, and being able to align that to the work that's going on in teams so that we have that sense of autonomy. And so having some sort of form of company performance measurement. Some of the things I'll talk around today are something we call vanity metrics. Leadership. A lot of talk today around the importance of strong leadership in an Agile environment. Strategy and something called the balanced scorecard, which is something I've used and I'll introduce. Team tactics and leading and lagging measures. Sinitsky once said, "Hear the why to live, compare almost any how." Something I'm a massive believer in is purpose. So understanding the reasons why we're doing something. And hopefully what I talk through is how we introduce through vision and through strategy a clear reason for why we're doing the things that we're doing. Whether it's specific in a team to a particular product or customer, or whether it's more holistically for a whole industry. Something that was alluded to again was league tables. I've always been quite hard on myself and not seen myself as an academic person because according to somebody's benchmark, I underachieved a score. I did very poorly in my GCSEs. I had to repeat again, and that's harmed my self-esteem for a number of years because that was the measurement. How many GCSE grades A to C I got was the measurement of success in the academic system that I was in. I've read more recently about a famous lady called Maria Montessori, a chap on the right called Ricardo Sebler, and this is starting to introduce a different academic system, different way of measuring success and outcomes in the schooling environment. So again, this is just a bit of an aside, but just another example that's quite close to my heart is how if you measure people in a certain way, then that's what they're going to be driven to behave like. And then from a school point of view, it's all about exactly what you said earlier. You're spoken at, you're told to listen, you're then given a quiz or a test, and it's how much you've listened and understood that information. It's about theory, not about practice. In these school environments, actually, it's more around the kids themselves deciding, to a certain extent, what they want to learn, when they want to learn it. If building a bike is a good way to teach them about Pythagoras theorem and circumference, then at least they're brought into that process, they're actively engaged, and hopefully something they can then apply in their lives. It's got relevance. And actually, Larry Page, Jeff Bezos, a few others have actually been through Maria Montessori's schooling. So actually, they've not been through the traditional academic route, and they've gone on to do some amazing things. It's that curiosity, the creativity that can perhaps be stifled if we're measuring the wrong things. Eli Goldbrat once said, "Tell me how you're measuring, I'll tell you how I behave." Again, people are very aware, whether it's something very specific about the bonus they'll receive in their company, something a little bit looser, it's still what is success? How will I know I'm contributing to success? How will I look good? And you just have to be very careful with the measures that you choose. Winter and Whitaker also then said that the culture of any organisation is shaped by the worst behaviour you're willing to tolerate. So if we set a measure of success that leads to a certain behaviour in our business, then we're going to see a certain culture. And so if we're not setting the right measures to create the right behaviours and the right habits in our teams, then we're going to start to see a poorer culture. There's an interesting book called Lean Analytics, which I would recommend. Again, that also alludes to the relationship between the measures of success that you set and the behaviour that you can then start to see. It's also around having a very small number of metrics, and that's something I'll come on to, and it being clear the relevance that those measures have to me in the work that I'm doing. We talked about level 1 Agile in a few talks today, and this is also something that I'm aware of. It's Agile is obviously now becoming more and more popular. It's seen as a way of improving how customers see us, our success against our competitors, ultimately having a more successful business. Digital transformation is also popular in the IT world by modal IT, lots of other approaches to it. Essentially, it's senior leadership thinking about, or senior managers thinking about how we go through this transformation, how we go from not being an agile business to being a completely agile business. And often this misconception that it's a transformation and not a constant evolution. And again, it's just trying to make that very clear. This is really trying to get us to continuous improvement against some measures of success. And those measures of success can evolve as the company evolves. We're not going to go from 0 to 100. We all joked in my last company that we were 97%. It's a bit of a joke because we always stuck at 97, we were never going to be perfect. But again, that's a measure that we set that's creating some sort of behaviour and some related patterns. So vanity metrics. I've worked in various different companies now, and I always encounter vanity metrics. So I've worked most of my career in retail, and we always sit down in a trading meeting on a Monday morning, and we have, although we call them a dashboard, they will probably have 40 or 50 KPIs on there. And it's really difficult when you provide people with a sheet of information. What are you asking them to do? If you give someone a sheet of information, something's red, something's green, what are you asking me as a senior manager or leader in our business to actually do? And so it's really interesting to think about, can you make decisions based on the information that you're seeing? So, I mean, I've spent my life living with these sorts of numbers, but looking at revenue or margin or page views or hits a second, they're vanity metrics. They might be useful for your sales or marketing team to sell to your customers, but for making decisions in your own business, pretty tough to do. If these numbers go up or down, it's going to have a very weak relationship to the actual projects that we're running or the development we're doing in the team. My more recent experience has been with the kind of scourge of timesheets. I have to fill out 2 timesheets at the moment, one for the HR system and one for the project management system. I have to be 100% capitalised, so if projects don't exist, I don't exist. And there's some very strange behaviours that you start to see. You know, if I get a budget for the year, I have to spend that budget, or I don't get that budget again. And with all of these things, it's for us, it's for managers, it's for senior managers, it's for leadership to start to think about what behaviours am I seeing and how am I encouraging those behaviours because of the measures of success that I'm showing, the things that I'm rewarding. Just because I delivered all of the scope on the time that I set, if customer satisfaction has gone down and I'm telling my project team that they were successful, what sort of behaviour am I going to start to see? Is that good for the sustainability of my business? And so it's really important that we start to set clear goals, clear outcomes. Not starting with the numbers, starting with the goals that we want for our business, for our customer, for our teams. One example that I did want to talk about was one of the teams I worked in. We gave them a project. It was an agile team, but we gave them a project we called it RegGain. But it was a project to improve the conversion rate of customers coming onto the site for the first time and registering. So again, a very clear goal for them. We knew how many customers currently came onto the site and didn't register. The registration form itself was very, very long. Usability was very, very poor. And it was a fairly straightforward piece of work. The simplest thing for us to do was to remove a certain number of fields from the form. There was some clever things that we can now do with JavaScript in particular to make user interface a little bit easier for the customer to use. But essentially, it was removing a lot of the friction, a lot of the fields of information that we made mandatory. And some we just removed altogether. And I think the project took something like 5 or 6 sprints. It was released, and the conversion rate shot up. The team were extremely pleased. All of the targets they set themselves, they completely smashed, and everybody went out for a celebration dinner. It was a real pat on the back. And then the team wanted to then iterate on that. It wasn't until probably 2 or 3 weeks later that when we were looking on the Monday morning at essentially the trading pack, there were some other numbers in other areas of the business where we were starting to see things decline. And what we quickly realised with a little bit of analysis was that the service that we were selling was access to a database of rich information, large volume of rich information. And what we've done at this start point, when we start to capture that information, is reduced the richness of that data. And it was perfectly fine. We went to have that conversation with the team, and they were saying, well, that's kind of what we expected. It's a change in the behaviour of the customer. But other people around the business weren't aware that that was our measure of success, and it certainly wasn't the measure of success that we made visible. We set the measure of success as conversion and registration. And it did set, it wasn't necessarily complete panic, but there's lots of nervousness around the teams that what are we going to do now? We have to do something very quickly. And unfortunately what it meant was realistically we had to put some of those fields back. We had to see conversion on that registration form drop again, because there was certain information we just had to have. I say had to have. I think it was going through the loop again, but talking to those departments. Because we were trying to change customers' behaviour. If you ask a customer for all this information up front, if they don't see the relevance of that information, they're not going to give it to you, they're not going to register. So we don't get any information at all. And that's, the team were perfectly right in their view of make the information capture contextual and you'll have a better, longer lasting relationship with that customer. But it was tough because different departments were looking at different measures of success. So that for us was a lesson in alignment. There was nothing at the top of the company that was clear enough that said these small measures of success, these small numbers of metrics are the things that mean solid business performance. If it's just revenue and margin, you can't see the impact of the work you're doing on those numbers. Something else I've recently become aware of is something called the burning platform. I discovered this when I was looking at Agile and digital transformation. Burning platform itself is a story of a man working on an oil rig alone who hears a massive explosion in the middle of the night, wakes up, realises that the rig's on fire, and he has a straightforward decision. Does he stay on the rig, try and put the fire out, but likely he will burn to death, certain death, or does he jump and face a probable death? And it was trying to put that story in the company context. We're in this position now where for most companies, if they don't in some way, shape or form evolve to a more agile way of working, they're not going to be able to compete and they won't survive in the long term. And so what are leaders actually doing in giving a vision and a strategy for people to move towards? Or are we just in this state of fear? We're only going through transformation because we have fear and urgency, and they're not often the best places to start from. So it's how we move into, we have a clear vision for our company and our products and services, and we have some measures of success that we know we're going in the right direction. Again, we've spoken about this a few times today, but again, I find this really, really important. The difference between management and leadership. In most companies I've worked in, the senior managers are seen as the leaders. Yes and no. I think not everybody naturally is a good manager or a good leader. But I think businesses now have to recognise the importance of leadership and the importance of leadership training. Scrum in particular introduces you to servant leadership. There's a few different types of leadership. That's a whole different set of talks. But it's understanding that it's an acquired skill or ability. It's something that can be taught. And so again, that's actually part of the strategy. If we want people to have certain skills and to be encouraging certain behaviours, we need to set them up to be successful with that. So it's just a little quote that I like, but imagine a workplace where everyone engages, contributes their full intellectual capacity. So people having more control over the work that they're doing. To get that trust, there has to be this visibility over how we're measuring success, and that trust is really important. Dan Pink, I'm sure a lot of people will be aware of Dan Pink, talking a lot about the importance of purpose, autonomy, mastery. And again, it's how we create the environment where we can truly have these things, where that trust can exist. People feel very exposed if something goes wrong over here and they're not in control of it. And so it's having this clarity over the vision and how we measure success will hopefully help that. And so really it's trying to encourage this trust up and down, this transparent conversation so that we can have these autonomous teams aligned to some sort of strategic intent. Often companies will say we have a strategy, but that strategy will often be a product roadmap, and it will often be a collection of projects. That's not really a strategy. It's strategic intent. It's steps that we're going to take to be a more successful business. You will do that through your products and services, retiring products, developing mature products, or creating new ones. But that's the set of steps that you're going to take as a business. So I'd like to talk a little bit about the balanced scorecard. So this was, what I thought I'd start with is just, this was introduced by Kaplan and Norton, I think in the early 90s. I'm not too sure why this isn't more prevalently using it than it is, but this is an example of a strategy map. And what this is not is a dashboard of KPIs. What this is trying to do is to understand, again, not just focusing on financials. So we want to have this much revenue, this much margin. They're important and they're likely to be in the financial side, but we're looking at our customers. So what do we want our customers to think about us as a business and our brand and our products and services? Internally, what are the things that we want to be good at? And also what are the things from an innovation point of view and a learning point of view that we want to be seen to be doing? It's just trying to introduce these different perspectives to give us a more, uses the word balanced, a more balanced set of measures for our business. Now certain companies, Ryanair's changing, but Ryanair might be one where they may have 9 fewer measures of success in customer, because actually a lot of it's about internal efficiency. But what this hopefully starts to show is that things are connected. And so we're setting ourselves these objectives. These are words. We're not starting with the numbers, we're starting with the objectives. So we want to enhance knowledge sharing and understanding of the customer and market. So the learning and development team are making sure that people have a better understanding of customers and of the market. The hope is if they do that, they're going to be in a better position to help develop new products and services. We want to develop new products and services because we want to improve customer satisfaction. We think that's what our clients would like, that's what they're telling us they would like. That will hopefully improve brand perception. Again, we're seen as a company that creates new products and services and solves customers' problems. We want to grow revenue through those new services, we want to increase shareholder value. So we're still going to have revenue numbers at the top. We might have some more specific ones like return on capital employed, but I understand in the learning and development team how the objectives and measures I set myself, how they're relating to things at the very top. Peter Drucker once said you can't manage what you cannot measure. We took it up a level and said you cannot measure what you cannot describe. So this isn't starting with numbers, this is starting with the objectives that we want, the things that we want to see, and then we'll worry about whether we've got something that will be able to measure that objective.
You know, he later retracted that.
Did he?
Yeah.
Peter Drucker?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, hopefully we've made it more usable with caveating it with being able to set the objective in the first place. We set ourselves some objectives for creating the objectives. We wanted to align the business to clear objectives. We wanted to measure our performance. There's no point creating a brand scorecard and putting it on the shelf. It was something that needed to be usable and needed to evolve. Initially reviewed quarterly, but then reviewing it as often as we needed to. So we wanted fewer, clearer, more strategic metrics. So again, not these big dashboards with 100 metrics on and not sure how to make decisions based on that. Very clear things, maybe 6, 7 or 8 measures that were going to show the health of our business, that everybody could see us on the wall. And so we wanted to adopt a balanced scorecard to see significant improvement across those 4 perspectives. That's the Kaplan and Norton book. It's a very, very big book. One that you probably wouldn't really cover to cover, but there are several chapters in there that are very useful. But again, there are several Harvard Business Review articles on this and several YouTube videos that summarise it in 10-15 minutes. And again, I'll share those later. Why did we even do the scorecard? So again, we had a feeling as a business that perhaps, and we validated this with our senior managers, we had a feeling that we didn't feel that our staff were aligned to any sort of strategy. The daily work they were doing, the decisions they were making, the prioritisation they were doing, it wasn't really aligned to any sort of strategy. Lots of very talented people that understood our customers and our market, but again, no real strategy. Again, 10 out of the 11 felt that we were just able to react rather than executing a strategy. But 8 out of the 11 felt we were about the same as other companies, so we didn't beat ourselves up too much. We felt there was room for improvement, but lots of companies don't really have. They have some very, very inspiring vision statements, but no real way of measuring the performance of their business other than some of these very big vanity metrics. So the steps that we took, we had sessions where we started to create some of these strategic objectives. So we ran collaborative workshops with various people across the business on what were the things they wanted to see across those 4 perspectives. We didn't want to get away with the screen. Too short. We then talked about measures of success afterwards. So we knew how we were going to measure success objectively, but we then needed to talk about numbers. Once we had measures of success, we could then start to think about targets. So actually, we may have a certain percentage, but what do we want to see that increase by? What do we expect to see? Then we get down to strategic initiatives, so which sorts of areas of our business would we like to focus some of our time. That then allowed our portfolio team to start to make investment decisions and think about the value that they could create across our products and services. Again, a whole different talk, but Dan North's done a talk on skills mapping and delivery mapping, which again we started to use, which we thought was really effective. You've decided where you want to start to make your investments because you think it's going to help execute your strategy. You start to get a feeling for the types of projects you're going to do and the types of products and services. Something we found was that if you have 4 products and 4 agile teams, are you really going to be developing all those products with the same cadence all the time? Or should you have a certain flexibility that says, actually this particular product, we're not going to do much development on that at the moment, we're just going to go into operational mode, we're focusing strategically on this area. So it gives you a little bit of an understanding from a skills point of view. We talk a lot about the T-shape in Agile, but how much are we truly encouraging that T-shape? If we have more of an understanding of, so again, Lean talks a lot about moving people to the work, not the work to the people. If we understand the value that we want to create, the products and services that we're working on, then we can think about the people that we have, the skills that they have, the skills that they'd like to learn. The perfect world is that we have a new product with some certain skills that are needed, and people internally can train each other. Again, really efficient, low cost, great for our business. And then at the very bottom we're down to into our sprints and talking about velocity and time ranges and those sort of other metrics. This is an airline example, and really this is just trying to show, so for example here, if I'm in the internal process team and I'm running training courses, I can start to understand a little bit. There's almost a link between the quality of the training that's given when people join an airline and the speed and efficiency at which we turn an aircraft around when it's landed before takeoff, and then the need for fewer planes. If you're running a point-to-point airline and you're running that very, very efficiently with fewer delays, then your costs are lower, your delays are lower, so you can manage your fleet more efficiently. So it hopefully starts to give more of an understanding that I feel running my learning and development courses. I'm going to have my own metrics in my learning and development course about how much people truly understood what I taught. But also I can see a little bit more how I'm contributing to the success of the company. You know, customers are happier because there's less errors, and I'm actually saving the company money through efficiency. Diets, another interesting one as well. So again, from a lagging measure point of view, if I say that I want to lose weight and I just feel that I'm doing some things during the week that would help that, and I get on the scale at the end of the week and I haven't lost any weight, then that's a lagging measure. That's the same way that a company, and traders it normally trades, gets to the end of the week and look at its revenue and go, oh my God, that wasn't what we wanted. And it's how we start to introduce some of those leading measures. The lagging measures are still important. We still want to know the revenue, the margin, the return on capital that we need. Leading measures that are going to start to change some of our behaviour. So if you were looking at weight, for example, why? Do you want to live forever? Do you looking to win a marathon? Do you want to lose weight? Do you trying to get fit? And then you start to think about how I'm going to measure that. So what behaviour am I trying to create in myself? Is the weight actually important? Is it BMI? Is it blood pressure? Is it sugar levels? Do I want to be doing a certain exercise routine that then goals? And it's just starting to think about some of those leading measures. If I do a certain exercise so many times a day and get on the scales at the end of the day, then I can see whether that change in behaviour, that change in routine has affected the leading measure that I've given. So far I've talked a lot about strategic, just talking from a team point of view. Hopefully with a clear strategy and a clear vision, a team, when it's looking to prioritise its work, will have more of an understanding. If we know as a business that customer satisfaction, net promoter score are fundamentally important to us, if we're doing something in our product that's potentially going to make it harder for our customers to do the thing they're trying to do, we're clear that we're solving a customer problem, and we can't be clear that we're going to improve customer satisfaction. So we don't want to negatively impact the way we're measuring the performance of the business. So hopefully, I can then prioritise my work a little bit more. What you don't want to see is getting very tangible when you get into teams. So, you know, your developers need to be productive, you need to write more code. Again, what behaviour are you going to create if you start using silly measures like this? Again, I've been asked a few times actually to think about velocity, and we get a certain team to a certain level, certain maturity, they're performing really well. They're doing 70 points a sprint, they're going to do it over there. But again, you just have to ask yourself the question, why am I asking for this measure? and what behaviour do I think I'm going to create. Because again, we've all talked about it or seen it. If you ask a team to improve its velocity, it puts the storyboard estimates up. Really easy. Somebody somewhere is probably happy with that because they see success with that number going up and we've made it go up. But your business isn't better and your customers are better. From a Kanban point of view, so community flow, again, I'm not knocking any of these measures, I think they're great, but again, they're just think about behaviour. If we're asking a team to increase throughput, to reduce lead time, it's a combination of measures together. In that example, we have to be very careful, who's our customer and are they satisfied? The fundamental at the beginning is kind of alluding to that. If I'm just tasked with closing more tickets on a particular day, again, what behaviour is that creating in me? Am I focused on the best outcome for customers? If I'm just upselling to customers and I'm not thinking about later satisfaction, is that the right thing? Distractions is another interesting one. So again, I've seen it in teams where we've talked about the fact that there's lots of collaboration in Agile and I need to focus, and I completely understand that. It's working through as a team. What's the best way to achieve that? Normally what we've done is we've said, right, someone's got their headphones on, you leave them alone. If someone's got a red flag on their monitor, you leave them alone. Again, it's just trying to work through, if you put some of these things in place, what behaviours do you then start to see? Some of my developers never took their headphones off and never took their red flags down. And so they weren't really solving the problem of collaboration, of why we collaborate, the reasons why we don't necessarily, again, talked about earlier the open plan offices, why we don't want to be sat together in an open plan collaborative environment all the time. But again, it's just understanding, observing behaviour, and just tweaking those measures to see how we change things for the better. We talked a little bit about leading versus lagging, thinking about the behaviour that we're creating. One interesting one there was, again, we were talking about, we want to get best-in-class developers and we want our teams to be happy. But for leading measures, you're looking at behaviour. So you talk about best-in-class developers. As a business to us, what does that actually mean? This isn't necessarily a good measure, but it's one, just a silly one that we considered. If we wanted our developers as being active part of the community, and they were out speaking at conferences like these, actually, do we want to see, rather than saying you need to speak at 3 conferences this year, actually, what's the quality and usefulness of the output that they're speaking? How are people using what they're talking about? We ended up actually using the number of people we recruited from meetups. Because again, if we were talking knowledgeably about things and people wanted to work for us as a company, then that was seen as a positive thing. But again, it's just understanding, leading measures are really, really hard. So again, you need to have training. You can't just read a book and say, right, come up with some leading measures, go. It's a really, really hard thing to come up with because you don't know the end result. You know the sort of goal you're going after, and you think you know the sorts of behaviours you want to see, but coming up with those right measures that are going to encourage the right behaviours is a very, very tough thing to do. So what should we measure? How often are our teams actually reaching their goals? Again, teams talking more about goals and outcomes, not necessarily talking about dates and projects. Return on capital employed. So again, rather than being 100% capitalised, and I would invest in this project as long as it's be capitalised, actually how efficiently are we spending the money that we're investing? Return on investment is very obvious one. Sustainable pace and improvement. So again, how do we truly know that we're continuously improving? How do we really get a good measure of how teams are improving? Are they coming up with something every retrospective that they're executing? So cross-skilling, again, rather than just talking about T-shape, we want to be seeing this behaviour. So again, how do we encourage the behaviour of people growing the breadth and depth of their specialisms? Again, we talked a little bit earlier on around understanding the skills that are needed, encouraging people to work in different areas, talk to different teams, run internal courses. A fail walk is another good example that we've used. Again, everyone talks about T-shape, everyone talks about it being okay to fail. It's okay to fail until you fail. I've worked in a couple of companies where we talked a lot about it's okay to fail, and then when we actually did, people struggled. We've been in a few situations where we perhaps spent £250,000 on £1 million project and stopped. And people started to focus on why we wasted £250,000 rather than why we saved £750,000. The continuous improvement is how do we next time only waste £100,000 to get to the same realisation. But again, it's an improvement, it's a step. In the old world I used to work in, if the project was approved and we had £1 million, we'd probably deliver it late, spend £2 million, but we deliver it because it was approved. So all of this is still continuous improvement, back from the dark old days. Team happiness and cooperation. So again, making sure that our teams are actually happy with what they're doing. The time to market of your minimum viable product. So again, in a couple of places where I've worked, the frustration seems to come in when we have what's perceived as a fixed roadmap of projects for many, many months into the future. And if you're not on that roadmap, then your features are not getting delivered. So it's giving yourself flexibility as a business. Most people will come up with an idea, and if that idea doesn't get onto somebody's backlog, they will hold that frustration that things in the business just don't get done and I don't get listened to. If you have an out there that can quickly, within a few hours or a few days, validate whether that's a good idea or not, then those frustrations will die away. If people care enough when you give them the time, you say, okay, if you want to follow through with that idea, go and spend a couple of days with this team, understand whether it's viable or not. There's different techniques from that. Again, you can learn a lot from Eric Ries and the Lean Startup. Running these experiments to understand if we did this particular thing, what outcome do we want, can we quickly validate that? It just helps reduce some of those frustrations. Mr. Minus 273 once said, to measure is to know, you cannot measure, you cannot improve it. So again, it's just trying to make sure that we have a clear set of measures and we're targeting improvement and we can understand. Again, even with the scorecard itself, it's not to say that it's right or wrong. You have a set of small measures for your business, you're going to set some targets, things are going to go up and down. But the ability and the whole point of agility is that these things are visible and we can react accordingly. This is something that we stole from Spotify when I was at read.co.uk. It's hard to read, but essentially we would sit down every couple of months with the teams as part of their retrospective and we give them some traffic lights. So laminated traffic lights, and just ask them things. Some are more specific to the quality of the code base or our improvements around decoupling. Some are more around the ceremonies that we do. Effectively, across them working together as a team, how much they felt supported by the rest of the business, whether we thought we were improving or not. So, green with a green arrow means that that's probably not an area we want to focus on at the moment. Again, some of the reds, we weren't necessarily showing a demo for some of the teams at the end of every sprint. So, again, just understanding the reasons why that happens, the reasons why it's positive for other parts of the business to see those demos. Just encouraging the conversation again. Again, it's a nice visual measurement for the teams to show that we're aware of the different facets of improvement and we're setting actions accordingly. So hopefully a lot of the things I talked about, it's trying to encourage the business as a whole having a vision, having strategic intent, the things that we're going to do as a business and how we know we're going to be successful, visible and transparent to everybody. And then we can talk about autonomy in teams, because if I make a decision in my team, I'm protected because I know how us as a company as a whole, the things that we're doing to be successful, the things that we're measuring. And so if I'm aiming for the same success that all of the senior leadership are aiming for, I feel much more empowered to make decisions that affect my work. Without those clear measures, I'm a little bit open to what happened with our registration scenario where I think I've done something positive, only to be told a few weeks later that it's a negative thing. And for a motivation point of view, I'm probably not going to take those same risks again. I'm going to go into my show. That's what we saw with that team, a lot of demotivation for quite some time. And it's just because that strategy wasn't really clear, those measures weren't clear. And so it's getting to those leading measures, those signals of our business is performing well and we're going to be successful. I haven't really mentioned much around innovation. It depends on your take on innovation. Some people again are very, very obsessed by the word. We have to be innovating all the time. There's disruption and there's more sustaining innovation. So if you're continuously improving, if you're from a business performance point of view, you're getting better. If your customers are saying that you're improving products and services, I'd argue you are innovating. If you want to be disruptive, then strategically you have to give time and money to that disruption. And again, you have to know how you're measuring success or failure with that. We talked a minute ago around the number of ideas that are getting validated. That might be a good leading measure of we're being innovative. We are quickly getting through, is this a good idea or not, good idea or not, good idea or not. And that then can infer the types of investments that you make in the future. So yeah, throughput of learning rate is also another one. There seems to be a bit of an evolution through from very much a waterfall organisation through digital and agile to more of a learning culture. This kind of acceptance that there's not much in process intellectual property anymore. Actually, it's good to go out and talk to the community about what we're doing and what we're learning, because we're all in a very similar boat now. Actually, technology, customer behaviours are all changing so quickly that we have to be scrambling and learning as much as we possibly can. And not anymore just from ourselves, our own internal company, and our own customers, not just from our competitors, but other markets, other technologies. The amount of disruption that goes on in different sectors now, and how rapidly companies can set up and change behaviour means that we have to be learning as a company. We can't just do the same old things and hope to be successful. Really just to finish, perhaps the long statement again, tell me how you're measuring me, I'll tell you how I behave. It's just that, go back to your teams, your departments, your business. What numbers are you looking at? Are they really allowing you to make decisions that affect your work, allowing you to prioritise? What behaviours are they having on you and the people around you? As I say, I'm in an environment where we're heavily led by investment decisions, restricting budgets, timesheets, capitalisation, and it creates a certain type of behaviour. Remove all of those boundaries and you get another type of behaviour. None of it's right or wrong, some of this will suit different businesses, but it's having that conscious thought of what are our measures doing on the behaviour in the company, and how does that affect our culture. I will tweak some of these, but as I'm alluding to the balanced scorecard, again, I found it really, really useful, even if you don't read the several hundred-page book, just starting to understand across the perspectives, customers, internal process, learning and development, and finance. Have we got a small number of measures in each that give us this balanced view of the performance of our business? If you haven't got one, ask your senior leaders why we haven't got one, and why it's not visible. This is all about visibility again. There's no point this being a one-off exercise. This is something that we need to create, make visible, everybody believes in. Some of the companies that they've written about in the Harvard Business Review, they have it all the way down to individual balanced scorecards. I know how I'm contributing to the strategy. I know the measures that I have that relate to the measures of the company's performance. That's ultimately where motivation comes from. I can go to work every day and know that I'm doing something valuable that my customers want and is making my business successful. Give them time. Okay, any questions?
It's, in terms of measurement change in behaviour, that's not direct relationship, really is. I mean, it's more how I think you're going to use that measure.
Yeah.
That's the really important thing, because from this I've seen you've got better categorisation how the measures are plugged in.
Yeah.
But the measures are the same. This is going to measure time, this is going to measure turnover rates, etc. They're applied into a better model.
Yeah, some of it's going to be how they're used and applied and allow decision making. I mean, even more as a group, some of those are going to change the way that your portfolio management office is going to work, the way some of your project managers are going to work. It depends on a particular metric, but
there's always going to be a proper measure. Always going to be there.
Some of it's necessary, but again, if it's part of the strategy, there's a visible strategy there that says this is how we're measuring performance of the business. We try to make our workshops as collaborative as possible. We let different people from different levels of the business have those arguments around why this is good and this is good. And that's something I would encourage people to do maybe 3 or 4 times a year. Just get back, review it. Some businesses are far larger than others. The business where we did it, there was 350 of us. So it was much easier to cherry pick 40 or 50 people across the perspectives and just get them to kind of thrash it out for a day. Again, we took them out, provided food, loads of flip charts, and just said, you discuss from the finance perspective what you think a good, healthy business looks like. What are the things we should be looking at?
So the point is there is you can't affect one thing with anything isolation, right? So
No.
you'll affect that negative effect on something else.
Yep. So that strategy map is really important. So that's the nice visualization. It says we've got these 8 objectives and they're all interconnected. And absolutely right. You might set up a strategy map, you start to execute some of your projects, and you see this is now negatively affecting that. And it has to be reviewed. And actually, at a certain point, and this is where leadership comes from, someone's going to have to make a brave decision that might say, actually, knowingly, revenue's going to go down, or margin's going to go down because we're trying to influence brand reach or something like that. So it's about being conscious around the decisions that we're making strategically. If it's just we want more revenue, who knows what we should be doing, who knows how we should prioritise. The situation I'm in at the moment is it's more of a lean issue now. 156 projects, 180 people, off you go. We can't prioritise, they're all important. And everything's grinds to a halt. So we're not delivering any value at the moment. If we are, it takes many months. Nobody's happy with that. But what else do you do with the measurements that you've got?
I just wanted to add a sort of anecdotal point to coincide as well. I'm part of the board and produce, like everybody's sort of going to produce all these graphs. I think it's quite important, these measurements. And no one would really understand what it even meant, so we'll sit there staring at them, what does this mean?
You spend a week trying to analyse them.
Yeah, and then all sorts of outcomes would come from it. People would make sort of decisions based on them, or there'd be negative outcomes, and so well, this group's not performing, and it's actually quite dangerous to do that, and just come up with measures, because, it's actually can be very destructive, I suppose.
Yeah, it's tricky. I mean, with our finance team, we had more of a lean conversation where we encouraged them to think about what they were doing, who was the customer, who else was in their value chain, and question some of the things they were doing. From the board's point of view, we had to start to show the balanced scorecard alongside their current packs. We couldn't just replace them. They had to fill the one as representative of the other. They could read that one easier than that one. It's a long and tough process, but I feel it's definitely worthwhile. Something I don't see enough of this sort of thing. So there's nothing really that aligns the vision to the projects that are going on, other than gut feel. And whilst gut feel is important, at some point we have to measure impacts. And typically the projects I've been on, we don't, or we make it up. Unfortunately, we make up the business case and we make up the impact. So that itself is a lot of waste. Okay, well thank you very much for your time.